on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:06. It's O'Connor and Company, and history is happening right here, right now. That's why you tune in here, and you hang on every word, and we appreciate it. We're in this together, my friends, and we need to make sure that they don't steamroll over us again. Coming up later in this program at 7:35, Matt Schlapp will be here. 8:05, Tom Fitton of Judicial Watch, and at 8:35, Tom Bevan, Real Clear Politics. It's Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning.
Joining us right now, as he always does, Wednesday at 7 o'clock, is our legal analyst and former U.S. Attorney for the District, Joe diGenova. Joe, I do want to get to the intense scrutiny and revelations over the Secret Service and that hearing that's scheduled today, but I would be remiss if I didn't get your observations on this turn of events, something that we all anticipated and expected, but still, when the story comes out that Joe Biden has announced he's not going to accept his party's nomination, he'll still stay in the White House as president, the way it was done with just a letter tweeted out, no pictures, no video, that he supposedly sequestered in his home in Delaware, recovering from COVID, and he hasn't been seen for days. And then suddenly everybody lines up for his successor. It smacks, as I said in the last hour, of like an old Cold War Soviet Union putsch. Joe, what's at play here?
Well, I think it's pretty clear that Joe Biden is very sick, very, very sick. I spoke with an old line Democrat up in Delaware last night about what was going on, and the people up there who are very close to the Biden family, the people that I spoke to, say that he's very ill. They have grave doubts whether he's going to make an appearance this week, although the Netanyahu visit really complicates matters for them. So the bottom line is he's been sick for a very long time, very seriously ill, and it finally all came to a head. This has nothing to do with the money and people asking him not to run. He was incapable of running. He has reached a point now where he needs tremendous assistance to function normally, according to these people in Delaware, and this was inevitable. And as I told you a year ago, he wasn't going to make it to the end of the ticket.
So, of course, this raises the specter of a cover-up at the highest levels, including the woman that they would select as his replacement. And, by the way, fraud. Donald Trump on Truth Social said, I'm going to quote him now, "So we're forced to spend time and money on fighting crooked Joe Biden. He pulls badly after having a terrible debate and quits the race. Now we have to start all over again. Shouldn't the Republican Party be reimbursed for fraud in that everybody around Joe, including his doctors and the fake news media, knew he was not capable of running for or being president? I mean, he has a kid. I don't know if there's any legal precedent there, but this is fraudulent behavior and a cover-up."
Well, under the new rules established by the Democratic Party with regard to Donald Trump and the lawfare that they have launched against him, that is a legitimate theory of legal liability for everybody involved in this process. All it would take is control of the executive branch and launch a grand jury investigation and just look around for stuff and bring people in and have them testify. That is the standard that the Democrats have set with their lawfare against Donald Trump. You find a person and you look for a crime.
Yeah,
it isn't abundantly clear right now. It's clear that a fraud, a political fraud, was committed on the people of the United States. Hidden from them was a material fact about the condition of the president of the United States, and more importantly, right now, how can he function as president?
That's right. It's
pretty clear that he cannot exercise the powers of the commander-in-chief or the chief executive under Article 2 of the Constitution. Now, even though the media and the Democrats are all trying to change the subject to Kamala Harris, the bottom line is this. He is still president. He still has the nuclear launch codes. He is not fit to be president. What are we going to do about that? And when you watch the Washington Post and listen to mainstream media people just skip over this and move on to happy-go-lucky stories about Kamala Harris, they are avoiding the real crime here. This is a constitutional crime that's been committed. Forget the fraud. This is a constitutional crime that's being committed against the American people. We have a dysfunctional president. We have absolutely unassailable proof now that he cannot function as president.
Joe, I totally agree with you, and I was going to actually ask you about that, but you answered my question, so I'm going to turn over to the hearing today on the House side with about the Secret Service. They're going to interview the head of the Secret Service, but this is really about Mayorkas. He decided that the Butler event was a low security risk.
Ukraine is a...
Oh, so sorry.
Well, that's how. That's
I'm getting
how,
my Kamala Harris
That's
audio
how Larry
ready.
shuts me up now.
I
Anyway,
apologize.
he Mayorkas did not assign the normal Secret Service agents to that event. And now it turns out that Jill Biden had better protection than President Trump. What do you make of this? What's going to happen at this hearing? Will she resign? Will there be any action against Mayorkas?
First of all, I don't know what's going to happen at this hearing because Republicans always blow these opportunities because they don't know how to ask questions. That's number one. Number two, forget incompetence, forget negligence. This is malevolence. Mm-hmm. This did not happen by accident. This is a purposeful decision to deny legitimate coverage to Donald Trump. This is like an attempt at assassination. Mm-hmm. I think that Mayorkas and the people around him and this woman Cheadle, who's the director of the Secret Service, should all be fired. Unfortunately, this president is not competent enough to do that mentally. Nobody's going to be fired. She's not going to resign. Why should she resign? Mayorkas hasn't asked her to resign. Mayorkas is very pleased, in my opinion, with what happened in Butler. They all feign shock. In fact, they were delighted that a shot was taken at President Trump. Mayorkas and Cheadle and all these people are thugs. They're absolute thugs. And I underscore, this was malevolent. This was a purposeful decision to deny security, to put him at risk. I have no doubt about it.
If you were advising Republicans on the House panel today, what would you have them focus on?
Don't make speeches. Ask specific questions. Now, the way you set up a hearing like this, because I've done this on Capitol Hill, both in the House and the Senate, what you do is you have a list of 50 to 60 important questions. Each member is given a sum of those questions, and they are told they must ask those questions. They cannot freelance. That usually doesn't happen with Republicans. The Democrats are excellent at it. They always have a theme. They stick to it. They divide up the questions. You have 50 or 60 good, simple questions. How many people were on the ground? Who made the decisions? What time did you? Why did you not have this? Why was there not something? How do you? I mean, that building is. Here's the bottom line: the Secret Service failed. No matter how much we love the people around the president who circled him and tried to protect him, to President Trump. The bottom line is this: they have one job, and that is to protect the protectee, and they didn't do it. Yeah. He almost was assassinated. He was almost killed. They failed. They didn't do their job. Why did that happen? And the answer is he was not a high priority for them.
A catastrophic failure. By the way, I've just learned that joining the panel investigating, not from the House, but that the administration has put together investigating what happened with the Secret Service is none other than Janet Napolitano. Joe. So,
yeah, I mean, you talk about a political hack. I mean, the worst type of hack to put in it. This is Mayorkas. He's a joke.
Janet Napolitano's claim to fame, by the way she was raised to the public eye was she was Anita Hill's attorney during the outrageous, despicable hearings against Clarence Thomas, led by Joe Biden, senator from Delaware. Good Lord, it's like a bad Charles Dickens novel. These characters keep coming back.
And by the way, even though I've known Joe Biden since we were both in our teens in Delaware, this ignominious exit is just desserts for him. Yeah. The way those guys have conducted themselves in public office has been total corruption. This ignominious exit, in my opinion, is glorious.
Do not feel sorry for Joe Biden, but feel sorry for democracy itself, as this has subverted the democratic process, and Democrat voters will no longer have a say in who their standard bearer will be. Joe diGenova, always good to talk to you, sir. Thanks for joining us.
You bet.
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live
from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
For all your glass, mirror, and shower door needs, visit DullasGlass.com. Dullas Glass. Love your glass.
Oh, yeah. Oh, all eyes are on Gay Paris as France is poised to host the Olympic Games. And what does this have to do with politics? Well, I'll tell you this. Dr. Jill Biden, our First Lady of the United States, you know, she seems to like the trappings of the office. Have you noticed that,
I've
Julie?
noticed.
She really enjoys all
I
the red
wonder how many
carpets and the
couches have
glitz.
been destroyed in the White House. When they get back in there, it's just going to be stripped couches, no curtains.
The upholstery this woman is going to wear as she represents our nation in Paris, France, for the Olympics. She's supposed to be the head of the diplomatic delegation representing America at the opening ceremonies. And the question now remains, will she still do that? Will she still
Of course
follow
she
through
will.
with that duty?
You kidding?
But shouldn't she be by her husband's side
gonna
at this
milk
moment?
this.
Moment of crisis?
No, she'll.
Won't she be like, you know what? There are some things that are more important.
Hey, look,
I'm a
okay, wait, hold
Biden
on.
after
Look,
all.
In Jill's defense, he doesn't recognize her anymore. Okay, they could just stick a visiting angel next to him, and he'll say, "Hey, Jill." She won't. He won't even notice she's gone. It's fine.
Well, I will tell you, there is some indication that she will absolutely be in Paris representing us at the Olympic Games, not just because she wants to have that motorcade to go down the Champs-Élysées and she'd go shop at Chanel or wherever else she needs to shop. But also on her schedule right now is a fundraiser. And
Wonder
if
for
the
who?
one thing the Bidens know how to do, it's raise money.
Yep.
Fundraiser, first reported by Politico, comes at a time of uncertainty for Biden's campaign.
You think?
This was from Friday's report. Is the fundraiser, and why is she going to Europe to raise money? Right, is hosted by former U.S. Ambassador to the European Union, Tony Gardner.
Larry, Democrats do that, right? Danica
That's what
Rome
they
here
do.
in Manassas area. She goes to California to raise money.
Yeah,
We
but
get how
France? France?
Why stop it? Why stop at California? Why not go to France?
Well, we also know the opening ceremony, by the way, is July 26th. That's this Friday, is that right? And or is that Saturday?
It's Friday. It's Friday.
And second gentleman, husband of Kamala Harris.
What's his name?
Well, it says here Doug.
Oh,
Doug Emhoff, but I thought it was Bruce or Lance or
yeah, Mike.
Caitlin or something. Anyway, Doug Emhoff will lead a delegation to the closing ceremonies on August 11th. So apparently by then, it'll be all over.
The spouses are just spinning. They're like, we got to milk this.
Jill, you're done.
Yeah.
Dougie's going to handle the closing ceremonies.
Yeah.
That, by the way, that August 11th closing ceremonies in Paris is just a week before the Democratic National Convention is set to begin. So, yeah.
Doug's not
spouses
coming home.
are going to do that. I'll just hunker down here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be quite a scene. When will we hear? Oh, here's a question: who will we hear from first this week, in person, on video? Joe Biden or his first lady wife, Lady Macbeth, Jill Biden?
Neither.
Neither.
They're hunkered
They're
down.
done.
They're done.
They're gone.
Yeah.
I'm told, by the way, that there are college sports champions coming to the White House today for the regular sort of photo op with the is it the Michigan Wolverines? Are they going to be there for their football championship? Because it would how outrageous for Kamala Harris to be there representing the president for the national champions in football.
Yeah.
But that's what happens, and I'm sure that's exactly what she'll be doing. Also, speaking of Jill Biden and her trip to Paris, representing the United States on behalf of her infirmed, now out of power president husband, let's not forget that Vogue cover, the one that she posed for that was released right after that disastrous debate. It's got her in the white tuxedo dress. It says the First Lady Jill Biden with the quote on the cover, "We will decide our future."
We will decide our future.
That was leaked out early, but the actual Vogue cover issue is set to hit like next week or something. After
collectible.
All of this. That's Jill Biden says, "We will decide our future." Honey, I don't think you had anything to say about your future.
Maybe she's going to announce her run, Larry. Maybe.
You know what? Everyone says
You know
it's
what?
Michelle. Michelle is going to be the one at the
Could be.
convention.
Hey.
Maybe it's Jill.
Hey.
Maybe she's gaining support.
Jill's got lots of experience. She's been running the government now for a couple months, maybe a year.
Let's face it. The re-election campaign is called the Biden-Harris campaign
They don't
funding
even have to
mechanism.
change the bumper stickers.
The same Biden. Let's go.
Let's go.
Jill 2024. It's about time. Si se Broadway. It is 7:23.
Now,
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:37. It's O'Connor and Company on this historic Monday morning, the 22nd day of July. Thanks for tuning in. We're honored that you want to spend this morning with us. Coming up at 8:05, Tom Fitton will join us of Judicial Watch, and then at 8:35, Tom Bevan of Real Clear Politics to tell us how the polling looks right now for a potential Harris-Trump showdown. But don't put all your money on Kamala Harris either. We've got quite a process ahead of us for the Democrat nomination, and we'll lay that out for you coming up in a moment. I'm Larry O'Connor alongside Julie Gunlock. Morning,
Good morning.
Julie. Obviously, we're talking about the fact that President Biden apparently let me deliver the news as accurately as possible. A letter with Joe Biden's signature on it was presented on his social media accounts, and the letter says that he's withdrawing from the presidential nomination. That's all we know, really, 100% for sure. We have not seen or heard from the president directly other than that missive and a follow-up saying that he fully endorses Kamala Harris. We've heard nothing from the president's wife. We've heard nothing from the president's son, who we're told are his two closest advisors, which brings us to our next guest, Matt Schlapp. He's the chairman of the American Conservative Union. And first, Matt, the way this entire thing has been handled, the fact that Joe Biden was plucked right before a campaign event in Nevada, we were told that he had COVID. Instead of coming to the White House where he has 24/7 medical facilities, he instead goes to his home in Delaware, and then we don't hear anything until this message that apparently he wrote and put out. What to make of how this whole thing has come down?
Well, it just looks so much like he was manipulated. I think has been being manipulated for quite a long time to, appear to be vigorous and to be an effective president. But I think at this time, it's very odd that a person that always, thought of himself as having the personal touch and having Irish charm is in seclusion somewhere. Now, maybe he's in a lot worse shape medically. I mean, you bring up the fact that he's, perhaps further away from the type of medical oversight you would need in this case. But maybe his decline is just, this senility that we've all been, watching. Let's face it, watching with some horror on our TV. We do have two wars in two continents, and it's very frightening to see China also making moves, and who knows what what does Trump call him, the little bomber or whatever, thinks in North Korea. I mean, it's pretty scary stuff. And now we got this question about who's the president. Is Joe Biden going to act as the president? Is Kamala Harris going to act as the president? Has Jill Biden been acting as the president? It's a rather bizarre setup.
Yeah, Matt, it really is. And I want to sort of pull on that a little bit more. They have set themselves up in a really awkward position here. He has issued this letter saying he's not running, and yet he is still the president. How do you think they're going to handle this? How do you think they're going to explain the fact that, he is obviously so weakened? Seeing him get into that SUV when he came down those small stairs and then having to be literally helped into that SUV. But not only that, like you say, this is, Mr. Gregarious Irishman. He is hidden away from the American public. How are they going to explain this to the American public that he's not okay to run for president, but he's fine to still sit as president?
Well, Julie, don't be mad at me, but I actually was listening to Morning Joe a little bit this morning just to kind of get a flavor. The show I used to appear on pretty regularly, and now seems like it's on Mars. But all the historians were on, two of note that you guys would all know, and actually three, and they were all saying that this is great for the Democratic Party because it's what the Democratic Party has done in the past. For instance, when Lyndon Baines Johnson and Harry S. Truman, when they decided not to run again, and it was great for the Democratic Party. And I'm just listening to these morons. Wow. Moron historians, like the dumbest professors I ever had in college. All those people, the party went on to lose in every one of those occasions.
Yeah, exactly.
Sat down and then they lost.
Ask President Stevenson and President Humphreys how great that went.
There you go, Larry. It's just like you listen to this, and it's just it's such like history as hype. It's like we've got Donald Trump as an authoritarian threat to the United States of America, so we must have a coup within our own nominating process with canceling the votes of millions of Democrats in primaries and caucuses in order to, stand up democracy. I mean, makes me barf.
Only on Morning Joe. Well, that's why we exist here on O'Connor and Company. Hey, Matt, I got to ask you, because today is also going to be the House hearing of the Director of the Secret Service. And, Matt and I, for those of you who don't recall the show last week, Matt and I were together when the news came down of the assassination attempt of Donald Trump. So I know that you were plugged in to this from the very moments that it began, this entire story. And you had originally said that night that you had reports from the Trump campaign that they had been denied additional Secret Service. The Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas denied that report, and now just yesterday the New York Times and the Washington Post confirmed that, yes, in fact, the Trump campaign were denied Secret Service. In fact, they had 12 extra Secret Service people to cover various areas of the event for Jill Biden on the same day that they only assigned 3 for Donald Trump. So what are you looking for in this hearing today, and your reaction to this obvious, absolute catastrophic failure on behalf of the Secret Service and Alejandro Mayorkas' Homeland Security Department?
Well, it all starts with, the politicization and the weaponization of every major agency in government. And you could see this in the Secret Service, which has always been seen as above politics, beyond politics, when the White House was able to restrict Secret Service protection for RFK Jr. Now, let that sink in, because, I'm not going to vote for RFK Jr., but I don't want him to get shot. And I think it would be terrible for our country if another Kennedy who's running for president gets shot. So if I'm sitting in the West Wing with my politics, I'm like, give that man extra protection. Right. This would be destabilizing to the country, and make security decisions based on security, not on politics. Instead, what the Biden administration has done is allowed their evil politics to get into everything. And so denying RFK protection equates to saying, if Donald Trump can't get all the security he needs, it's because he's being audacious with wanting to have these rallies all over the country, which are really strange for presidential politics, because nobody's ever been able to garner these audiences in all the corners of the country like Donald Trump has. And it was an effort to stop his ability to be as public and as forward as Donald Trump wants to be by denying, according to the New York Times and these other media outlets, Secret Service protection. And that benefited Joe Biden as he was, trying to get a second term to the presidency. And look, I don't know what the Trump administration's Trump campaign's going to say. I'm going to let them talk for themselves. I'm just saying this case seems very, very clear. And then the other thing that's obvious is that, George H.W. Bush was a tall man. Ronald Reagan was a tall man. You always saw the men mostly around them be about their size or taller. And I am glad we got these great photos from Donald Trump coming back up off the stage, but that's only because he had some very short women trying to protect him. They had their hands in the air. They could barely reach his chin. It's really that's a disgraceful thing. If there had been another evil assassin with a shot, he'd be dead. Right. He would have been shot twice.
And you wonder if that huge complement of Secret Service agents that were sent to protect the First Lady in Pittsburgh, how many of the people charged with surrounding her in the event of something disastrous, how many of them were tall men who could shield her versus the complement that Donald Trump had that day in Butler, Pennsylvania? All questions that need to be answered today at the hearing. Matt Schlapp, always great to talk with you, sir. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
It's 7:45 WMAL traffic. And so what does the next 32 days look like, or actually more accurately, the next 10 days look like for Democrats? The DNC says they're committed to a transparent and orderly process, which should confirm to anyone watching that it will be everything but transparent or orderly. They're trying to force an August 1st vote, which would be well before the August 19th, day one of their convention. Ed O'Keefe breaks that down.
We have heard throughout the afternoon from members of the Democratic National Committee. There are about 4,000 delegates who get to vote at the convention. Those are the people that fill the hall, that sit there when the balloons fall and listen to the speeches every night. Those that are involved in this talk about nominating the president virtually, that had been going on over the last few weeks, are now being told to expect a vote on August 1st. So that's about 10, 11 days from now. That is new. It's not official, but there are several delegates we've heard from this afternoon being told expect a vote on August 1st.
By the way, we keep hearing that they have to do this ahead of time virtually because of Ohio. Ohio keeps saying, no, you really don't. Everything's fine. You can have your convention. We'll make sure the ballots are just copacetic. Everything's cool with that. They're trying to push this through. You heard about 4,000. Technically, Kamala Harris needs 1,986 delegates. She currently has 531 that have endorsed her. All of the delegates who were assigned to Joe Biden are now officially 100% released. Obama has endorsed an open nomination process. What does an open nomination process look like? Well, I will tell you. Thanks for asking. Any candidate who wants to be considered for the Democrat nomination will need 300 signatures from delegates to have their name put forth at the convention. Then the nominees are put to a vote. Now, if one of the nominees wins a majority of the delegates in the first roll call, it's over. If no one wins the first roll call, then the super delegates are added to the roll call votes, and they will continue to vote until a candidate is chosen with the majority. That's how democracy dies, without one single voter ever getting a chance to cast a vote for their nominee. And the one that they're trying to push through and just jam down their throats is Kamala Harris, a woman who has never actually gotten a single vote for president of the United States. Now, so far, there's only one other Democrat who has floated out the idea, and it's confirmed by multiple news agencies that they may be putting their name forward for this process, and that would be West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin. But it is an absolute and total mess right now, and it will be anything but transparent and orderly.
Well, this will be good to watch. I'm popping my popcorn.
More from Ed O'Keefe here on the potential for this August 1st vote to preempt everything.
That vote mean?
That would, in essence, attempt to put Harris's name formally in the nomination and make her the nominee. So now someone who may not like that idea only has about 10 days to say no. Let me challenge her. Let me present the delegates with another option. And let's see if somebody emerges in the coming days to do that. We have not heard as of this afternoon of anyone who's thinking of it. There is a possibility someone out there, a governor, a senator, or someone else might feel compelled to at least give the party an option. But you also got to remember that the thumb is pretty much on the scale for the president and vice president. As leaders of the party, they stack these committees with their loyalists, with people who are aligned with them ideologically or who've worked alongside them. So it's no surprise that they would be aligned with the president and vice president and be carrying out the rules that were approved last year to carry out this process. So
who would want this? Who would want this? Who would want to challenge this? Honestly.
When this kind of power is within your grasp, I don't think you can beat Donald Trump.
I think that I think there's an awful lot of Democrats who are thinking, let me hold off. Let me hold off for 4 years and have a clean slate. This is messy. This is ugly.
Oh, no, this is the way you get it. You don't have to worry about raising money and going state to state in the Iowa caucus and eating corn dogs, and you just go in there and you convince. That's when Gavin Newsom rises, or Pritzker, Andrew Cuomo, Gretchen Whitmer, Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg. They all think they can be president.
They're being awfully quiet, Larry.
Oh, of course. It's all got to happen behind the scenes. Listen, if Kamala Harris doesn't get the votes on that first go-through, let the games begin. And I'm not talking about the Olympics. I'm talking about the real games, the bloody games, the Game of Thrones games. It's 7:54.